Now, before I give him the microphone, and I will, I promise, I want to say one thing about him, and it's different from every other governor that we've worked with. His administration partners with us. That's different from saying, oh, we're going to do this, what do you think? They're a partner, top to bottom. So, Governor, the stage is yours.
Good morning, family. Good. I love you back. I love you back. How's everybody doing? I'm so happy to be here with each and every one of you. And first, I just want to say to Paul, thank you. Thank you for being a real partner. Thank you for being a real friend. Thank you for being someone who brings such vision to the organization and such fight for all of our educators. You are so deeply appreciated, and we are grateful for you, man. Thank you so much. I'm also so thankful to have an entire leadership group who I don't just admire, but people who I lean on, people who make me better, people who don't just make me a better governor, but honestly just a better person and a better Marylander. We are thankful that we have Nikki Woodward as our vice president for MSEA. And y'all, I don't know anybody who wears a sling like you, girl. She's styling. I am so thankful that we have Colleen Morris as our treasurer. I am so thankful that we have someone who is who's not just a dear friend, but someone who in many ways is a role model to me about how I should live and how I should love and how I should serve. And that is my friend and our executive director, Sean Johnson. God bless you. And by the way, I'd be remiss if I didn't say, how amazing is Alana? And like, I had a chance to meet her mom earlier too, who's named Lana. I was like, oh, that's so cute. But we are so thankful, truly, for each and every one of you. I'm thankful for your work. I'm thankful for your vote of support. I'm thankful for your partnership. But most importantly, I'm really thankful for everything that you do for our young people and for our families, for all of our educators. And when I'm saying educators, I'm talking everybody. I'm talking about our teachers. I'm talking about the ones who are teaching science and the ones who are teaching the arts. I'm talking about the people who are making the meals. I'm talking about the people who are cleaning the facilities. I'm talking about all of our ESPs. I'm talking about our community school support systems. I'm talking about everybody who's working with the families. I'm talking about everybody who's working in the administrative offices. I'm talking everybody. Everybody who makes this thing work. And everyone who understands that the fight is worth it, because when you never forget who you are fighting for, you will never stop fighting for them. And listen, I'm grateful for this organization because I think about when I say if it were not for our educators, I would not be here. And it's not even just, what happened in my life. The educators who saw me, the educators who poured into me, the educators who understood that sometimes I needed second chances and third chances and eighth chances. The educators who didn't make sure that they were just supporting me, but supporting my family when they needed it most. But I say I would not be here if it weren't for our educators, because you all were also the ones who saw then candidate Westmore first too. Because people forget about the power of our educators and the power of MSEA. Let's be clear. When y'all first decided that Westmore and Aruna Miller should be your partners inside this work, and by the way, can we please give a shout out to our amazing Lieutenant Governor Aruna Miller? She's outstanding. She's outstanding. But when y'all first put up your hands and say, we want to go with that Moore Miller team, y'all know we were polling at like 1%. And people are like, I'm sorry, y'all, MSEA went with who? But you believed in us. And you changed the entire shape of that election. Because after you all came and said, we're going with Westmore and Aruna Miller, what they didn't know was that the game was over at that point. The same way that educators have poured into me my entire life, you all poured into our campaign. And it's not just that I would not be the 63rd governor of the state of Maryland and Maryland's first black governor had it not been for MSEA. But you reminded the whole state of something. That when we work together and when we partner and when we invest, our state will win. There is nothing that I will not do for you, because I know who you fight for every day. And there is nothing that I will not do to make sure that our children are getting everything that they need, everything that they deserve, every God-honored opportunity that they have. I stand by you because you stand by our kids. I stand by you because you make it very clear that anyone who wants to come after our children has got to come through you first. And anybody who comes after you has got to come through me first. You see, I will always invest in you because I believe in you and I believe in your product. Our kids, our long-term success. That if you really want to help a child, make sure that child is coming up in a strong, supportive home. If you really want to help that home, make sure that home is in a strong, supportive community. And if you really want to make sure that that is a strong, supportive community, make sure that it has strong anchor institutions like our public schools that know and understand their role and their importance in lifting up that community for the long term. And so the thing that I want people to know most is that we worked in partnership and we have kept our promises. That we work together to make sure that there's real progress for our communities, and that we're not done. That when we stood here and we said that we are going to work together to make sure that Maryland has the best K-12 public school system in this entire country, that we meant it, and that it meant you must invest in it. And I'm proud that together we have delivered record funding for Maryland schools all 3 years that I have been in office. And in fact, this year's budget alone, This year's budget alone, we have secured nearly $10 billion from pre-K through 12 education for the state of Maryland. Historic numbers that we've been able to see and produce. But I do want to be clear that I actually don't consider an absolute number an exclusive accomplishment. It's the results that you all have delivered. It's the fact that I said we are going to make sure that we are supporting and investing in our educators, and that starts with ensuring that our educators are getting a fair wage for the remarkable work that they are doing. And the fact that we have men and women who every single day are working to mold our young minds and helping to build our future inside of our state and are still struggling to pay the bills is absolutely unacceptable and something that we must fix and change in our state. And that is why in our administration, we have increased teacher salaries by 10% across the board. And that's why we are committed to achieving a starting salary of $60,000 for all new teachers next year. And by the way, I do want to be very clear that when we came this year and we said we were going to reform a tax system and make it fair, when I said, you know what we're going to do? For everybody who are working class Marylanders, everybody are middle class Marylanders, for everybody who every single day is working and doing the work on behalf of the people of this state, that we're going to make sure that we don't just get fair wages, we're also going to make sure that everybody here in this room, that they're going to get a tax cut. And also say, unapologetically, that for those people who are doing really, really, really well, you're going to pay a little bit more. Because what people have to understand is that the reason that we do this, the reason that I'm asking people who are doing really, really well, I'm not saying that I don't applaud their success. It's wonderful. But what I am saying is this, that success happened because we have world-class public schools. And so you are going to take part of your success and reinvest to make sure that the next generation can create the next generation of you all. That we know that boosting wages for our educators is going to go hand in hand to make sure that we are shrinking the educator shortage that we have in the state of Maryland, and frankly, an educator shortage that we are seeing across the country. But Maryland is going to help lead the charge on that. And we're going to take multiple angles to be able to address it. And that is why one of the first bills that I introduced as governor, and one of the first bills that I proudly signed as governor, was the Maryland Educator Shortage Reduction Act to support our educators and our teachers. And I'm thankful for the work that we did together to get it across the finish line. That this year we crafted and passed the Excellence in Maryland Public Schools Act to create debt-free pathways to teacher licensure. And I'm proud that our administration has launched the first state-sponsored apprenticeship program for teaching in Maryland's history. And since inauguration, we have worked together to reduce the educator shortage by 25%. Which means that while we're proud of the progress we've made, we've got more work to do. And there is nothing that we will not do to make sure that for each and every one of you who are working every single day, to let you know and to say with a very clear voice, the reinforcements are on their way. I know how challenging this is, where we're continuing to ask you all to do more with less, where we're continuing to say that we must invest in education to be able to secure our future. but knowing how difficult it is when things like educator shortages become so real. Whether it's legislation that we've introduced, whether it's making sure that we're incentivizing the teaching profession and all of our ESPs, whether it's making sure we're crafting initiatives like our Feds to Eds initiative and going to many of our federal workers right now and saying, listen, for all of our federal workers who are being, in many ways, not just cruelly, but in many ways illegally fired by the Trump administration, that we are going to our federal workers and we are saying, listen, if you have an interest in joining our ranks, if you have an interest in joining some of our state's best, let's get you certified, let's get you qualified, let's get you into classrooms, let's make sure that we can build the future of our state and build the future for our children together. And that also, part of improvements means making sure that the places and the spaces and the buildings that you are working in actually honor and reflect the ambitions and the hopes that we have for each and every one of you every single day. And so that's why this work goes hand in hand with our push on school construction. It's why it goes hand in hand with our push for apprenticeship and trade programs for our young people. It's why it goes hand in hand with our push for expanding preschool and making sure we can get our students starting earlier. And why we are making sure that we can add to your ranks, because no educator should have to manage 40 or 50 students at a time. It is not fair, it is not smart, it is not effective, and we've got to do better. So while I'm thankful for the work that we have gotten done together, and I'm thankful for the fact that one thing people have learned about us is if we said it, we meant it. I also know this, that the reason that I'm so humbled for the support and for the endorsement is because I'm not just grateful for what we've gotten done together in the past. I'm excited about what we're about to get done next together. And so there are 5 things that I just very briefly want to touch on about some things that we are going to work on together, and I'm so thankful to have each and every one of you as partners inside this work. The first thing, we need to double down on the apprenticeship model in the state of Maryland. That together we have graduated over 4,000 apprentices. And now we are going to focus on training up the next 8,000 apprentices who will join the ranks from the state of Maryland. And I am very clear, I am proud of the fact that we have some of the best 4-year institutions in the United States of America. Proud of it. But we are also going to end this myth that every single one of our students needs to attend one of them in order to be economically successful. It's not true. It's not true. It's not true, and it doesn't honor the path of every single student. That's not going to be the path of every one of our students. And that's okay. Listen, I joined the Army when I was 17 years old. I went to a 2-year college. Things worked out pretty well. Not everybody's going to have the same path. And the thing is, you know that, and you see that every single day. You see the young people who you will see in the buildings, in the classrooms, and inside of your areas all the time. And some students, you know, this is a great student, but you know what? They might not end up at Towson, and that's okay. They might not end up at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore, and that's fine. Even though University of Maryland Eastern Shore is a great school. But that's okay. Our job is to simply make sure they have all the tools, all the supports, that no matter their path, it is going to be God-honored. No matter the path, it is going to be supported. And no matter the path, it is going to contribute to the long-term growth, sustainability, and excellence of the state of Maryland. And you all are going to play an important role in making that happen. So we are going to continue building strong relationships between our K-12 system and our trade schools, our K-12 system and our technical schools, our K-12 system and our community colleges, our K-12 system and opportunities in the job market, our K-12 system and the service year option inside the state of Maryland, which another thing we worked on together. I'm very proud that Maryland became the first state in the country that now has a service year option for all of our high school graduates. And I remember during my first year of office, I traveled over to Western Tech over in Baltimore County. And I remember when I was walking down the hallway, I was speaking to some of the students, and I remember running into a young man who told me, I mean, he was straight up with it. He was like, I've known since 9th grade that I didn't want to go to college. And I started talking about the work that he was doing and the track that he was on. And he was a senior, and he told me that he had already been accepted to a job. He already had internships, and now as soon as he graduated, he knew exactly what he was going to do next. And he told me that his starting wage was $95,000. I said, let me find out. He's good. He's doing great. And he's happy. And he's ready to contribute. And the fact that he was not going to go on to a four-year institution, that's not a failure. This is his path to success. This is his path to support his family. And so we need to make sure that we are making that dream possible for all of our students and focusing on apprenticeships and job training and making sure that if a student has an aspiration to go on to a four-year college, that is fantastic and we will make sure that they are ready. But if that is not their aspiration, we are not going to shoehorn them into something that might not be their path. The second thing that I'm excited to work with you on is how we're thinking smartly and critically about technology in the classroom. So I have two young kids, and we have these conversations all the time about cell phones and when they're going to get them and all this kind of stuff. I know these are conversations that are happening with families all over the state. I know these are conversations that are happening not just inside of your individual classrooms and school buildings, but also conversations that are happening within your own families as well. And I want to be very clear. I embrace technology. I think technology plays an important role. I think technology can be a great equalizer. And I think it can be something that can serve as a real foundation and platform that we have access to information now that we never had before in human history. And that's a powerful and a good thing that we need to embrace. But here's also what I know. I do not want our educators fighting with cell phones for the attention of their children. I want our children to have their eyes on you and not doing this. I want our children learning from you and not from Mark Zuckerberg or ChatGPT. We are going to make sure that we as a state can embrace technology as a real asset Technology is something that can support our children. Technology is something that can support our educators. Technology that can be used to help to grow and make sure we are sustaining. But also, we are going to get serious from a statewide level about how we're thinking about cell phones in schools and making sure that you do not have to compete with that to make sure that our children are ready for this next journey in their life. Third, we are going to make sure that we are uplifting our public schools and all of our public school options. And so I want to be very clear. I'm not against private schools. I think many private schools are fine. I just don't believe that that's where public dollars should be going to support our private schools. So private schools are fine, but not fine for Maryland taxpayer dollars. And that's why I do not and I will not ever believe that vouchers should be a part of the way we think about our work or think about our uses of public dollars. That we are going to uplift our public schools, and that includes our community schools. Thinking about the wraparound services that we have, knowing that, as I said before, if you want to help a child, make sure that child is coming up with a strong supportive home, that home is in a strong supportive community, and that Maryland is going to be very bullish about how we're creating supports for the entire ecosystem. And by the way, that's another reason why I want to say thank you to each and every one of you for this full-on assault and bipartisan assault that the state of Maryland is under to erase and reject any forms of child poverty and concentrated child poverty that we have in the state of Maryland. For all of you and each of you know, this was a core part of my why. Why even do this in the first place? Why even run for office in the first place? Because you cannot call yourself a humane society when we allow so many children to grow up in poverty and have their destiny determined before they even have a say. And so the work that we have done together to make sure we're incentivizing our educators, incentivizing our public school systems and our community builds and our school construction in neighborhoods that need them most. The work that we have done together on the Enough Act to ensure that we are taking a data-driven and a community-led approach to be able to address the issue of chronic and oftentimes generational childhood poverty, that we now have 27 communities all across the state of Maryland, urban, rural, suburban communities all across Maryland, that if you look at the heat map in 2023 about where child poverty lives, the most dangerous thing that you can do when you understand, if you look at the same map in 2013, it looks exactly the same. In 2003, it looks exactly the same. That the issue of child poverty that we have in the state of Maryland, oftentimes it is concentrated and oftentimes it is generational, and it must come to an end. The fourth, we are going to continue to prioritize the effective implementation of the blueprint for Maryland's future. So I want to be clear, the blueprint still continues to be one of the most consequential bills that the Maryland General Assembly has passed in its history. I'm proud of the work that so many people here in this room did. I'm proud of the work that the members of the General Assembly did. I was proud of the fact that I testified on behalf of it. Now, I do hear people when they say, well, remember, the blueprint was started in 2016, and since we had that, we've had COVID, and since we had that, we had an administration who not only didn't believe in it, but did everything in their power to stop it, and still, frankly, even now that he's out of office, keeps talking about it, as if he doesn't have anything better to do. I get it. I understand it. I hear it loud and clear. That for many people, they say, listen, we lost years of promise because of both the pandemic and because of a previous administration. I understand that. I also know this, that despite that, the progress that you all are doing inside of our classrooms, it's working. That we are now seeing not just significant increases in math and reading, that if you look at third grade reading scores, that Maryland has jumped over 20 other states in just reading scores in third grade. That the progress that you are showing is real. And so if people want to have conversations about what do we do to make sure that we're properly implementing the blueprint, I'm here for those conversations. We can have those conversations. But if you want to start a conversation about we should just scrap it, we should just not do it, I want to be very clear. Not as long as I'm governor. We are going to get this done. We are committed to making sure we are supporting this work and committed to making sure we are supporting our educators. It's too important that we get it right, and we are not going to get it wrong inside this moment. And that by being able to support this important work and being able to have honest conversations with people about how do we make sure it's properly implemented, those don't have to be conflicting ideas. We can do both those two things simultaneously. But I do just want to be crystal clear. An absolute retreat is not an option. And fifth, we need to expand our commitment to closing the teacher shortage. That I mentioned that together we have closed the gap by 25% since taking office, but I'm also very good at math. Do you know what's even better than 25%? 100%. Say that, all my math educators in the building. And this issue is not a fad. This issue is not an election year issue. This will be my focus as long as I'm governor of the state of Maryland. That we are going to make sure, and you have my ironclad work on this, and my ironclad word on this, that we're going to make sure that we are getting the reinforcements on board. And that we're going to use every tool in our mechanism to be able to do it. And by the way, that includes the fact that we are going to be going to your colleagues all across the United States of America, and we are going to say that Maryland is the best place to teach, to live, to build. That we are going to recruit all of your peers from all around the country, and to do that, we've got to continue making support for educators in Maryland a national model. And a national model does not just mean how are we incentivizing people to enter into this profession. It also means what are we doing to make this a more hospitable place to teach. So for example, when we have states around the country that are doing things like telling teachers what they can do and teach and banning books, that in Maryland, I proudly signed legislation banning the banning of books. You will not ban books in our state. While in other states, you've got people who are looking at our educators and saying, well, do we really need that many? And in Maryland, we are saying this: in order for us to really be great, it means invest in those who are making our state great, and that means you. That in other places around the country, I see how they are looking at federal workers, and they're saying you are on your own. And in Maryland, we are going to our federal workers, and we are saying join our ranks and be part of this winning team. That in other states, they are making it harder to buy a home and to build a family. That in Maryland, I am very proud to say that I have been, and people say, well, you're very pro-housing. I said, guilty as charged. That we will do anything and everything in our power to create more inventory, to give more of an opportunity for affordable housing, to be inside of our communities, to make sure that our educators and our public servants and our police officers and our firefighters and our people who are doing the work on behalf of all of us have a greater opportunity to not just live safely, but also live with equity, have the opportunity to have that pathway to work, wages, and wealth, to have the ability to own more than you owe, to have an ability to pass something off to your children besides debt, to give you a chance, to know that your economic prospects are imperative in order for you to also achieve your other professional goals. That all of these are going to be things that are not just going to make Maryland more attractive, but continue making this a state worth fighting for. Every single part of the state. And so a few weeks ago, I was in Baltimore, and I met a woman who was living in one of the new affordable housing units that we built up. By the way, when we talk about moving on housing, you know, if you just take Baltimore as one example. When we first took office, Baltimore had over 17,000 vacant homes. 17,000 vacant homes. And we said, when we were talking about this push on making affordable housing options real across every part of the state, I know the conversation about how you do that in Allegheny is going to be different than the conversation in Kent, which is going to be different than the conversation in Calvert, which is going to be different than the conversation in Wacomico, which is going to be different than the conversation in Baltimore County. I understand that. But I also knew that in the case of Baltimore, that part of the way you're going to make and increase affordable housing options is deal with this issue of vacants. And now with our Reinvest Baltimore platform, we have now decreased the amount of vacant homes in Baltimore by over 20% just since I've been in office. And in 13 years, we will have the entire inventory of vacant homes in Baltimore done. No more vacants in the city of Baltimore. But I was speaking with a woman who was living in one of the new affordable housing units that we just recently built. And she was talking about the struggles of this moment. She was talking about the fact that we're all very clear that the Trump administration doesn't seem to like us very much. We're all very clear that these are not glancing blows, these are direct shots. That despite the fact that we're now on day 18 of a federal government shutdown, and by the way, I find it really ironic that we have people right now in the state of Maryland who are working for no pay, and we have people in Washington, D.C. who are getting paid and not working. It would be really great if Washington, D.C. could do the same thing that we do in the state of Maryland, like keep government open. It'd be really great if Washington, D.C. could do things like that we're asking our families to do. Like, could you imagine going to your children and saying, by the way, this family's closed until further notice? Like, who does this? It'd be really great if we had serious people down there who actually understood that a prerequisite for keeping the government open should not be kicking people off of health care or asking premiums to go up 95%. But I digress. So I'm speaking to a woman in Baltimore, and she's talking about all the things that have happened over these past 10 months. And again, these are all things before the federal government shutdown. And she said something that hit me and sticks with me. She just looked at me and she said, "Thank God we're in Maryland." And when she said it, I know she wasn't just speaking for herself. She was speaking for all of us. She was speaking for the educator in Hartford County, who despite seeing challenges, know that we are not going to stop investing in their professional development and making sure that we can raise wages so that they can actually do their work and not have to sacrifice, that being a public servant does not mean taking a solemn oath of poverty. That she was speaking for the person in Worcester County who oftentimes felt like they were being left behind, but are seeing how now this is a state that actually believes in investments in our rural areas and our rural parts of the state of Maryland. That she was speaking on behalf of the person who lives in Frederick, who said that we have seen transportation, roads, and assets being neglected for years. And how in this moment, despite what we're seeing, despite the pullback in grants and supports from our federal government, that we have made historic investments now and actually getting 81 and 15 done and fixing our roads and fixing our bridges, because it should not cost you all not just ruining your vehicles, but also time to be sitting in traffic while you're trying to get from where you live to where you work. Amen. 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 Yeah, if they want to see an example on how Maryland gets things done, when they said that thing is going to take 11 months to clear the federal channel, we got that Key Bridge cleared in 11 weeks. And the historic pace of progress is not going to stop, guys. This is just what we do. And the whole country's seen it. That at a time when we were watching children who were afraid to go to school, when we're watching immigrant communities feel like they are under assault, when we're watching a federal administration who is treating the Constitution like it's a suggestion box, thank God we are in Maryland. I know these are difficult times. I know these are challenging times. I know in many cases we feel like we are watching the things that we gave our life to broken. But we are also watching remarkable public servants who, in the words of Kipling, will stoop and pick them up and rebuild them with worn-out tools. This is a time to be historic. I learned in the Army that you never learn anything about anybody in times of ease, because in easy times, anybody can show you anything. If you ever want to learn anything about anybody, watch them when it was hard. Watch them when it was tough. Watch them when there were no easy decisions left. Because the people who lead during easy times, they will be forgotten. The people who lead during hard times, they will be immortal. And I'm thankful for each and every one of you for taking up the most noble of callings. I'm thankful for each and every one of you for fighting for our children and fighting for our families and fighting for each other. I'm thankful for each and every one of you for never forgetting how important public service actually is to this conversation. That public servants should be honored and not be used as punchlines. I'm thankful for each and every one of you because you've made the choice to lead. None of you have to be doing this. You choose to lead. And I'm thankful for each and every one of you because you are choosing to be immortal. So God bless you. Thank you for your work, and thank you for leaving no one behind. God bless you, and thank you for all the work you continue to do for each and every one of us.